We're going to get into some evidence-based conversation because, folks, as a former police officer, there's nothing like evidence. Have an opinion. And if yours differs from mine, that's awesome. I love having discourse with difference of opinions. But you can't argue facts. You can't argue numbers. And we're going to talk about some evidence-based conversation as to why Sony Corp absolutely needs to start putting games everywhere else. And the source away from Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming. And the title, and the lead title, ladies and gentlemen, is Lego Horizon Adventures could be coming to Xbox in the coming months, it's claimed. Now, granted, this is a quote-unquote rumor, but according to the story, and I'm going to read verbatim, folks, that's according to Arab media outlet Just Play It, who claims that their sources have said that Lego Horizon Adventures will be coming to Xbox in the coming months. While the outlet did not give a specific date, they said it's likely to come in the first months of 2025 at most, and even went as far as to speculate that it could be sooner. This move, according to the article, comes as the console exclusivity strategy between platforms has shifted in the past few years. PlayStation has seen tremendous success in bringing some of its titles to PC, whereas Xbox has decided to bring the majority of its exclusives over to PlayStation. And that's 4 so far. Now, we know that in 2025, exclusivity is going to be a bit of a mixed line. You have Doom, The Dark Ages releasing on everything. You have the next Call of Duty, which is rumored to be a sequel to Black Ops 2. Of course, like this one, Black Ops 6, it's going to be releasing everywhere. Indiana Jones is and has been confirmed for a spring release for PlayStation 5. And, well, what else could be added to that? Well, we don't know, because all we know so far are the standard fare Doom and the next Call of Duty, which makes sense, and of course Indiana Jones, which was announced during the summer showcase. And that's not a surprise because it is a multi-plat. The multi-plat strategy that Xbox is taking, a lot of us don't like it, but this is just what it is. Now, Sony, this is where we get into the evidence-based conversation, gentlemen, and panel and chat, because listen, if you don't like this type of strategy, I'm right there with you. But I understand that this has to happen specifically for Sony Corp. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's just take a look at the last 4 big releases for Sony. And this is where the evidence-based conversation comes into play. Now, if you have been following this channel or you follow the news, if there's one thing that we have learned about Sony is they love to boast, right? That is their swagger. They go out there and they drop it on the table and they just smile because they are the market leader. Let's be clear. That has not shifted or changed as of yet. They have sold over 65 million PlayStation 5s and they continue to make gains. Is that going to change? Well, only time is going to tell. But the one thing that we know about their last 4 releases is that they haven't done well, ladies and gentlemen. What am I talking about? Well, let's go all the way back to Concord. Now, I'm not going to go deep into it because it is what it is. The game doesn't exist. It's been sunsetted. It's been canceled. Money has been given back to players. That's a sailed ship. $400 million investment over the course of potentially 7 or 8 years. That's a failed investment. So now we move on to Astrobot. Now, Astrobot, one of my personal favorite games of the year, 1.5 million copies sold. Now, it ran the gambit in the Game Awards. Some people think that it was well earned. Some people think that it was, it wasn't. And that's fine. Depending on what side you fall on, it's perfectly okay. 1.5 million copies. Now, does that grow to 2, to 3, to 4, 5, maybe even 10 million copies because of the Game Awards? It's unlikely because it's a platformer. Let's then look at Lego Horizon. How did that do? Well, I'm going to assume not really well. And the reason why I say that with confidence is because, well, Sony is a boaster. They like to go out and let you know that their game sold a gazillion copies, and they can put it on paper for, well, what, to sell more copies of it. Because people are going to be like, well, if everyone is buying it, then I got to buy it too. Well, we haven't heard the numbers from PlayStation. We haven't heard the numbers from Switch. What we did and what we were able to find, ladies and gentlemen, are the Steam concurrent players. And the highest that it had was 604 players. That means 604 people bought that game on Steam. What happened with Nintendo? I don't know. What happened on PlayStation 5? You got me, because there's no word of it. Now, here's the fourth instance. Why does Sony need to start putting their games, or at least some of them, onto multiple platforms? Well, because take a look at the PS5 Pro. How many millions of the PS5 Pro did it sell? Can anyone tell me? Is there a number? Is there an article that you can show me, that you can DM me, that I will then read verbatim on the right now live on the air? Well, there isn't any, because Sony isn't talking about how many systems they sold. We don't know. So when this article comes out, Fuzzy Belvedere, on the weekend, I think there's a lot of validity to this. I think that this is happening. I think this is the first of many. Now, look, let's be clear. God of War is never coming to Xbox, as it shouldn't. That is a PlayStation IP that, in my old man opinion, should stay exactly where it is. Uncharted. Is Uncharted dropping onto Xbox? Nope. What about Ratchet and Clank? Because I think that would sell probably quite a few copies on Xbox. Nope, that should stay where it is as well. There are certain IP that belong where they belong. Gears, Halo, Forza belong at Xbox. Now, is that gonna happen? Are they gonna stay on Xbox? Shit, I don't know. Probably they're gonna go to PlayStation at some point. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I think there are certain lines that should not be crossed. Well, Phil Spencer's running Xbox, not me. He said that there are no red lines. We'll see what that means starting next year. So, Fuzzy, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer, and I'm going to say this right now. Unlike a lot of the PlayStation people that clip this show on a regular basis for their Twitter wars about the way I talk about PlayStation, I'm buying Horizon when it comes on to Xbox. You know why? Because I own every single Lego game ever released on the box. You name it, and I own it. And if I don't own it digitally, I have the disc. That means every one of them, because I love Lego games. I think that they're fun. I play the heck out of them with Tyler, and I will continue to play. And again, he has no affiliation with Aloy, but I will play this game. I will buy this game on Xbox, unlike many of the PlayStation gamers who only talk about playing games and actually don't play any at all, which is why these cowards hide their trophy list, because they don't want you to know that all they play is Twitter. They want to come off as some sort of, defender of the universe. But let's reel this back in. Let's talk about the evidence-based conversation. Let's talk about Lego Horizon Adventures dropping on Xbox. And could you imagine if it drops into Xbox Game Pass as well? Not a good look for Sony. Let's get your thoughts.
This isn't one that I'm standing up and down for if it does come, but I wouldn't be surprised, whether it's the Lego license aspect that kind of nudges it that way, or the fact that it didn't do as well on PC and they probably want to recoup some of them funding. People like to talk about attachment rate on Nintendo, and it's rather high. But that's typically for first party and certain third party titles. I can't see many Switch players really gravitating to a Horizon Lego game, but I'm pretty sure that there are some that picked it up, but not in the numbers that maybe Sony was expecting. And all things considered, if Sony's already taken to the aspect of putting their games on Switch, how far of a reach is it to put it on Xbox at that point? I mean, sure, you could say, oh, well, it's another, platform in Japan. It's mobile. It's not direct competition, but we all know the history of how, Sony got started. If it wasn't for Nintendo kind of, backstabbing them to some extent, there might not be a PlayStation. So for them to even put it on Nintendo, that goes to show that money is more of an importance than, maybe a reputation or anything of that nature. But as far as the story, I mean, as Boom said before, he kind of predicted it that this would be something that would probably be one of those titles that they would consider. And it's not surprising. I would say if we see this early next year on Xbox, I don't want to hear people complain about, oh, well, it's different than, when Xbox does it and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But at some point, PlayStation needs to look beyond the console, which, yeah, they're doing great at selling consoles. They've sold 65 million plus of the PS5. That's wonderful. But we all know the main bread and butter when it comes to these, consoles typically is the software that they sell or the services. And if they're having a hard time maintaining their service numbers on those that are subscribed to PS Plus, what better way to make up that number with sales of software, even if it's outside of your normal ecosystem? I mean, they've already tested the waters with the Switch. They've been testing the waters with PC. They've had some hits and some misses, but it really comes down to with PC, they're going to have to figure out the way to get them into the bean counting numbers as far as for their tallies on active users, and then incentivizing the PC guys to wanting to link their account to a PSN. That's going to be the struggle that PlayStation has. Xbox doesn't have that problem as much, primarily because of Windows. If you already have an association with Windows, chances are it's like one click once to associate your account with Xbox at that point. So any purchase that you make via either Xbox or the Windows Store or for PC, even though I know a lot of people prefer either Steam or even Epic for that matter, but it's so much easier in the sense that you continue your achievements, continue your progress, your cloud saves for a majority of games, and more games from third parties seem to be added to that on a daily basis. It's already taken care of. But Sony's going to have to at least catch up on that behalf. I mean, it's great for them to still dominate consoles, and more power to them. But for those that are moving beyond the console, for those that are discovering the all the visual goodies for PC, at some point PlayStation is going to have to make sure that they keep their presence and their software relevant in that realm as well. But not surprised, but we'll see when it happens. I'm going to say maybe one of the Marvel titles, especially considering now that Spider-Man is possibly up for sale. We'll see if more titles eventually come over, but right now this one makes sense. But I've seen already on like Twitter and a few other social media platforms that a lot of Xbox guys are like, they can keep that one, but hey, sharing is caring, and when we all play, we all win. So it's about time that Sony joins that party as well. So we'll see.